Three, two, one. Welcome, everybody, to the new season of the Fulfilling Destiny podcast. We are now in January 19, 2021 on a, what day is it today?
It's a
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday night. And for once, it's actually not a Wednesday morning since I normally do all my recordings on a Wednesday. But anyways, I'm your host, Jan Rainey Packlin. And I'm with me is one of our Fulfilling Destiny interns, Jazz Ladau. Hopefully I said it right.
You're good.
Okay, perfect. So, like I said, this is a new season of the Fulfilling Destiny podcast. So, I wanted to update everybody on what I've been up to in the past month or so that I've been away. Definitely took a lot of time to rest and recover, especially since shelling out episodes every week was quite a lot. So, I did suffer a little bit of burnout. So, taking the Christmas and the New Year holiday off was really good for my soul. I feel loads better. And then thankfully, with the support of the executive assistant, our founder, the board of directors, we are now adjusting the schedule to two, or is it two, bi-weekly podcast episodes, unless there is like special episodes, like for example, the upcoming Valentine's Day episode. I could expect a little bit more episodes on February or other things that might come along. So it's a tentative schedule. So everyone who's been listening in, thank you for being patient to me and for fulfilling destiny because we want to make better content. So and I updated all my hardware so I could actually make better episodes. But yeah, okay, awkward segue now. Today's a little bit more educational because that's a good way to start the new year. We're going to go back to our roots for fulfilling destiny. We're going to talk about period stigmas, how we feel about it in our childhoods as young adults, and then also how we feel about it as a culture here in America and also internationally. So, yeah, so that's how we're going to start. So, Jazz, since you basically held my hand through this through this bit of the episode, would you like to start first with the definition of what period stigma is or the word stigma in general for us, please?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, by the definition in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, stigma is a mark of shame or discredit. And I feel like a whole, we can really delve into shame and stigma and those ideas. But I don't know if you watch drag queens at all, but
Yeah. Wait,
I
which,
want.
wait. Which drag queens are we talking about?
I watch oh my God, now I'm like blanking on their names, but I love watching Trixie and Katya. I watch their
Okay,
like
yeah.
little clip. Yeah.
There we go. Yes.
Yeah. They talk about shame and they talk about shame that it's a landfill emotion. So it's pretty much something that you learned through other people. Whatever society teaches you is shameful, they dump it into your landfill and then you kind of take that baggage with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that basically describes what the idea of shame feels like. You don't learn it by yourself. It's given to you and then you're stuck with this very uncomfortable feeling and then whether it's by your words or by your actions, you may or may not share that with another person. And I mean, I know in some part of my life, someone could have like all the receipts and they could probably like show that I have shamed others for doing something XYZ. But yeah, so it's sucks. And I don't like it. So we gotta do better about not shaming others. And I know that's a big thing lately in social media, shame culture or
Yeah.
cancel culture, toxic culture, whatever culture it is now. But shame is starting to be a little bit more prevalent in social media. So hopefully now with this episode, we could talk a little bit more about what we could do about these feelings of shame. And especially when it comes to menstruation, we shouldn't feel ashamed about it because it's biologically normal for cisgendered women. But anyways, uh so looking at our topics list of the day, since we're going to start with the idea of stigma, I know that I've talked about this with other with other guests here before, but I wanted to ask you, Jazz, since we are the same age, right? Yeah, we are. We're the same
Yes.
age. 96 Club. But I wanted to ask you, what was it like when you had your first period? Your What was it like? How did you feel? And then what did you learn from it? You know.
Honestly, there was I don't even think I realized I had my first period. So I like, I was playing with my little brother as you do. I think I want to say like in the fifth, maybe sixth grade. I'm pretty sure it was like sixth. I don't really remember, but it was early. It was pretty early.
Wow.
Yeah, it was super early. And I was playing with my little brother, and I went to the bathroom, and there was like, like your first, whatever your first menses look like on your, on my underwear. And I was just like, did I go poop? Like I've never seen it before, and I was like really confused. And it was something that my parents, like, I had an older sister, and I think the thing was is that she got her period when she was like in high school. She was like a freshman in high school, so I think we got our periods around the same time because she's 4 years older than me. So
Mm-hmm.
either she like just started having her period, or like she hasn't been like too long in her period.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, excuse me, my mom really didn't talk to us about it at all. So I was just like, what is this? And then I called my mom because I was just like, I don't know what this is. I was just like, did I poop myself? I don't know. So I asked her, and she's like, go take a shower. Like, go take a shower right now. She literally didn't tell me like anything. And she's just like, she literally, I don't even think she told me like, oh, you're on your period. She was just like, go take a shower. And then like, took a shower, I got changed, and then she just like gave me a pad and was just, I don't even think she told me how to use it. Like I
Oh
literally just
my God.
figured like, it was just a whole bunch of trial and error. Okay. Yeah. And then I put on a pad, and I was like, well, I guess I got my period. And that was that. But I do remember, I don't know if at that time I don't think I got my period yet, because I don't think I would say this about someone if I had it already. But I remember one of my classmates, she like bled through her underwear, and I don't think, and like she didn't know. And like I remember I was like, oh my God, ew, oh my God, like she like bled through her underwear. Yeah, I was like, because it was like what it was, and I like didn't like know any
Mm-hmm.
better. And like now I'm looking back at it, and I was just like, wow, I was like so like rude, and I was just like, why did I do that? But like you're like 11, and like you don't know what that is, and people tell you it's nasty, and you're just like, yeah, it is nasty, and you kind of just go along with it. And like literally, I don't think anybody told her that entire, like, from the class period that I saw her, I don't think anybody told her that she like leaked
She,
through her underwear. And I was just all like, wow, now I'm like the complete opposite. Like if you've leaked, like I'll give you like the shirt off my back to cover it if that's what you want. Like I'll give you a tampon, I'll give you like a
yeah,
pad, whatever.
that's,
And yeah, so it was something that like literally, like no one that I knew growing up talked about. Like we would pass like tampons and pads through our sleeves kind of, gig. So I
oh,
was definitely someone that, I fell victim to this period stigma, and it took a lot to break out of it. I think I didn't really start addressing it until I was like maybe like in later stages of high school, and like in throughout college. That's when
mm-hmm.
I was just like, who cares? It's a tampon. You know what this is. You know what this is for.
Mm-hmm.
But until then, it was definitely just like you don't really talk about it to your friends, other than like, oh, are you on your period? Oh, I'm like crampy. You know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
other than that, it wasn't like
Actually, I have
a
a question
thing.
for you, Jazz.
What's up?
So you said that your mother just basically kind of told you to take a shower and just clean up.
Yeah.
I was actually wondering, did you actually go with your mother to the bathroom when you were younger? Like family bathrooms, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like went to the bath like in my house, or like when we were out and about.
So say like you're out and about, like
Oh,
when your mother was on her period, did you ever
uh-huh.
go with her to the bathroom to change?
Oh no, for sure no. Like I like
Oh.
didn't even know that my mom was on her period until like I was older. Like I would go through the bathroom cabinets sometimes because I'm nosy. Like I just want to know what everything is in the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like, oh, what is this? I'm like, I didn't know what it was, but I like now that I'm looking back at it, like they were pads, and like I never ever knew when my mom was on her period, and I'm talking like never in the entire time that she's had her period. I was just like, did you ever have your period? And she's like, yeah. I'm just like,
Wow,
where?
that would have been news. Okay, maybe that's maybe that's just my singular experience. Because my when my mom was on her period, I always like, safety in numbers, right? Mom
Hmm.
hen takes her baby chickies to the bathroom all together. My dad just sits by the table at the food court,
Hmm.
waiting for our food. So I find that really interesting because your mom never told you that she was ever on her period, but I was with my mom almost all the time whenever she's on her period. Like I think I mentioned this in a previous episode where I literally said that I thought she was dying because she was literally bleeding from from her vagina, and she would just look at me like I'm an idiot. It's like, no, I'm not dying. It's like, relax. Like, it'll come to you later. And I remember wailing, like, I don't want it to happen to me. It looks so scary. And this is
You're
in the
like,
family bathroom.
no.
It's a family bathroom. So other women, like, I'm pretty sure whoever came into that bathroom that same day I was having like a breakdown in the family bathroom was like, oh God, just wait, honey. You'll see when you're 13 or something. But that's actually pretty surprising. So your sister didn't tell you either? Your older sister?
I like, I think it was just because we were in such a big age gap. Like she was going through her teens when I was like in my like
Preteen.
pre-teens, you know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
when you're at your teens, you don't care about anything about yourself. And like it's true because I was that way too. Like I literally didn't care about anyone but myself. Like you're really trying to like you're
Figuring it
experiencing
out,
a bunch of
yeah.
change. So like I kind of didn't expect her to. But the funny thing is that me and her learned how to put a tampon in together
Wait. What's that supposed to mean?
because
Like,
we both got really tired of wearing pads because dude like this is like oh well for us it like just didn't work out. Like we were just like I can smell, you know, when I have like my menses, I was like this for me was not the gig. And I just felt really embarrassed about it. I really don't think I'd be embarrassed about it now because it's just like, dude, it's a period.
yeah.
But yeah, but
Back
when I was
then.
like, yeah, when I was like sitting in my like seventh grade like bio like chemistry class, I was like, can anyone smell me? Because I can smell. It's like Jaws. I'm like, oh, get me. You know what I mean? Like it was
So,
embarrassing. So
yeah, okay.
what I did was since my sister was older, I think she was on the same train or like I don't know if she had like she went swimming or whatever. For some whatever reason, I think she used a tampon. I think she used a tampon from her friend at first, and but she still didn't really know how to like use one, I think. But we ended up getting like a box like together, like a communal period box.
Right.
And at the time, YouTube was kind of like a like big-ish sort of.
Hmm.
But like that was when all of the old school YouTubers were on
Oh,
there. So if
gee, yeah.
anyone, yeah, if any of the old like if any of you guys used to watch like old beauty YouTubers, like this is like, who I'm talking about. So Weili Huang, a long time ago, everyone knows her as the tampon girl because she has a video on YouTube about how to use a tampon, like literally from like insertion to like the whole nine. And
I
honestly,
did not
we
know
watched that video. Yeah, she did. And her old YouTube channel is called I Like Whaley, if you guys know who that is and are listeners and know who I'm talking about. She has since moved away from that.
that.
But she had like a whole video up on how to use a tampon because I think she mentioned in the video and all the, commenters were like, oh, how do you use that? I've never used them, but I want to use them because it just seems so much like more convenient
Easier.
for
Mhm.
me, blah blah blah, whatever. Um, and then so she made a video and we followed the video. I think I was on my period at the time. Or maybe I think maybe we synced. I don't really remember, but like I know for sure that I was. Um, and then we were like reading the instructions and like following her video at the same time.
Oh
And
my
then like
God.
my sister like stood in the bathroom with me while I did it, and I was like, "Is that how you do it?" And she's just like,
That's
"I don't
sister
know. Can you
solidarity.
feel it?"
That is
She's like,
sister solidarity. Jesus.
yeah, for sure. She was like, "Can you feel it?" I was like, "No." And she was like, "Yeah, I guess that's it." I was like, "Cool."
Okay, I mean, I know I just uploaded this episode 2 weeks ago, or what will be 2 weeks ago. Still don't know how to use it. Well, now I do know, but I would have loved to have Whaley's video. The only OG YouTubers I know that are in the beauty is Bubs Beauty and Michelle Phan, and
Oh
this
yeah.
other girl. That's it. But other than that, nothing about how to uh use a tampon properly. I think it's because of the TSS. TSS?
Oh, the toxic shock syndrome.
Yeah, that was the reason why I strayed away from it. Is because of that. But I know that now it's not likely anymore since they have updated the ingredients for it. But even I know that Nicole, Elise, and I have discussed that they don't actually write everything, like all the ingredients on those box. But that is just something to think about when you are shopping for your own future supplies. But now that you know how to, since you had to learn from a YouTube video on how to do it, how do you feel about it now knowing that you had to learn that way versus learning from your mom and dad? Or I guess like any like uh women figure in your life.
I think the biggest thing for me was that I'm kind of lucky I didn't get bad information or like harmful information per se, I guess. Um, and I think I was just really lucky that I really didn't run into any issues. I just honestly, because I feel like now there's so much more room for misinformation, especially when it comes to science things and um, issues that come with things that have to do with your body. Like people will give you like home remedies that really aren't
Yeah.
like regulated, or like they'll give you like bad advice in terms of like your vagina. They'll be like, oh yeah, spray this on there and spray that on there. And it's like, no, 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 no,
Great
no,
way to
no.
segue into that because
Yeah.
oh my God, I have so many gripes about it. And we were just talking about this even before we officially like called it like, all right, we're start the episode. Is that not only did I felt very awkward about my period, like you said, you could smell yourself. In my head, it's just like if I could smell myself, that means other people could smell like a shark, right? Shark in water.
Yeah, for
That one,
sure.
that one blood in water.
Hmm.
I hated that. I hated knowing that sometimes you could just smell. I have a very heavy flow. Like
Hmm.
that's just it. Blood's gonna come out more, and it's gonna reek, and that means I had to change more often. And if I didn't for whatever reason, um, I know that it could linger. Like you could quite smell it in your pants, even if you're sitting down. Like
Yeah.
you could, if you know yourself that well, you know that you reek to a degree, right? I remember that my mom. It's not her fault. I think was it was something she was also taught. So
Hmm.
I'll give her that. Is that okay? Not sponsored by this company, but there was a body wash, feminine hygiene wash that you would use. I had a bidet. I've always had a bidet, even when coming to America. So definitely cleaning myself was quite easy. So anyone who had to use, like if you're Filipinx here, they had to use the tabo. You know what I'm talking about, right? There we go. Tabo, baby wipes, or just a cup of water, and then whatever. Anyways, so my mom would tell me if I was on my period and if I needed to change, if I'm gonna use the bidet, clean myself up using this wash. And it was fruity, it smelled nice, it made me feel clean. That was the thing. It made me feel clean. It really wasn't until much, much, much later, maybe when I think maybe even college was kind of embarrassing for me, that it's not good for you. And especially if in the way that I was taught at the time, I had to insert soap or insert whatever that cleansing liquid is inside myself. Not like douching like that, but like if
Yeah.
you were to, not to get too graphic here, but if you were to like just clean yourself gently, just around the rim and whatever, uh, you I would just feel clean, squeaky clean. That
Hmm.
was what would be. I was like, you're clean, you smell fresh, you are desirable in that way. And then when I thought about it at the time, I was like, desirable. Like, what did that mean? It's like I had to smell nice to be attractive to another person. You know,
Yeah.
it was crazy. I didn't think about it at the time that someone actually had to tell us like, you're gonna ruin your pH levels. Like your
Hmm.
vagina has a natural pH level that is kept up with its natural probiotics that exist already. It's a biome. You don't need to mess with it. And if you mess with it, you put yourself at more risk for other things, such like yeast infections and stuff like that. So you don't need to do that. So I learned that very late. Since then, I have stopped using it. If anything, just warm water, not hot water, warm water, and just just clean like quickly. No need to
Yeah.
go really thorough. There's no need for it.
Yeah.
And then that's it. That's all you need to worry about.
Hmm.
But I wish that was a thing that so I wish someone told me sooner because I fell into that trap of, like you said, shame that if I could smell myself, it's gross, it's unhygienic. Therefore, I had to use this product to make myself more feminine, more attractive, more clean, as if the thing that is going to happen every other month makes me like some dish rag. And I didn't like it. I didn't appreciate it. And there was something that I saw in medieval Europe that we did in our research is that back in the day, they took sweet smelling herbs. So let's safely assume lavender, put it in a handkerchief and hung it around their neck to mask the scent that they were menstruating. And this was in medieval Europe. And I'm like, what?
I know. I thought that was crazy because I was like, I know the rest of y'all ain't showering, okay? So the stink isn't coming from you menstruating. The stink is because y'all don't got running water. The stink is because y'all are tossing your poop on the sidewalk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that was the thing. Like, yeah, obviously there's the obvious scent of lack of general hygiene. Obviously, this is in medieval Europe, but at the same time, it's just like they went through the extra mile of trying to mask something that's already adding to the stench that exists. But
yeah, it's like trying to cover a poo with like some lavender like spray. Just like,
yeah, it's it's something that I didn't expect. And then through Hardy's research, this is a doctor. I don't know exactly their title, sorry. But in his research, he mentioned that it's all in the advertising. They use the words like fresh, clean, that the vagina had to be odorless, hairless, and unobtrusive. And there could be a lot of implications of what that could potentially mean, but that could be very triggering for some, so I'm not going to mention it here. But if you would like to look further, I could provide information down below. But the fact that people have advertised certain products to make women feel like they need to be clean is very wrong and it's very shameful. That's why I don't, for a time, whenever I needed products, I make my parents do it. I even make my dad do it. Buy this for me. Be discreet. That's it. So that was a that was something to think about. So I the smell thing, yeah. But I don't know how to exactly segue off this, but that was
well,
something
I
to
do
think
have a
about.
question for you.
Yeah.
When you stopped using the feminine products and you just started using like water, did you find more that found that it's the smell wouldn't, how would I say this? It kind of like regulated itself, like it didn't smell as often versus when you were using the wash, because I feel like that's what a lot of women find who like go transition from using the wash to like not using a wash, is that like when you use the wash, you
Mhm.
find that you need to use it like once you start using it, you need to use it more because your vagina is like not regulating itself,
Mhm.
and so it can like smell more, versus like when you're just using like water, a lot of women will find that you can go for like longer periods of time without like your vagina smelling, like you can go like the whole day and all of a sudden your vagina doesn't smell anymore at the end of the day versus like
Oh,
before. Yeah,
you
did
know,
you notice that, or did you,
I didn't
not
actually think
something
about
you?
it. Actually,
Hmm.
I did not think about it because you know what? I think it's I personally I think when my mother gave it to me, I didn't personally think that like I there was a like a really strong odor. To me,
Hmm.
when I smell myself, it's just like, well, I know what, like if you got a bloody nose before, that scent of coagulated blood, the iron,
Yeah.
like that's basically it. But then I knew that's just like, well, that's just it. It's nothing too gross at the time, but obviously when my mom handed me that, I was just like, is it really that bad? So I just did it without really thinking about whether or not it changed. It's kind of like it became reflexive, it became a routine. Like, okay, when I'm on my period, I'm going to use this product, clean
Hmm.
myself every day until it's over, and make sure I was a little aggressive with myself about it at the time because I just did not like the lingering sensation of dried blood on
Hmm.
myself. So that was partly the reason why it's like I just wanted to feel less crusty, if that's the right word to go
Yeah.
about it. That's how I thought about it at the time. But then now since I haven't, I didn't really personally I didn't really see any difference. Uh maybe it's just, I guess, if you take a look at like discharge, it's just like it feels more or less the same. Luckily, I didn't have a negative reaction to some things like I said, maybe some women have felt like they had a stronger odor since using those products regularly, and then when they stopped, it weakened. Like that could be a thing, but thankfully for me, nothing too extreme. But I also like to think I haven't went too extreme when it came to like cleaning myself down there. And see, I say down there, I use a lot of euphemisms because I still feel awkward talking about it. I really do. So if you hear me trying to like skate around skate around the V word, sorry. It's still a little hard to talk about it, especially now. Now it's a little bit more comfortable, but definitely since I started late when it comes to talking about myself in that way, it's just Akko Taco. I'm an Akko Taco. There we go.
Okay. It's okay. Everyone's on their own journey. Just know that this is a safe space. Whenever you do want to use it. It's crazy because I was watching a video, I think it was like a BuzzFeed video, and it was like Myrtle. Oh, that's not her name. I'm so sorry. She goes on like a journey, like a sex journey, whatever. And even the doctors, like who were like surgeons for like down there, or like I just said down there for like, you know,
Sorry.
vaginas and like labias
Yeah.
and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They had a hard time saying like labia and vagina and like these like medical terms. And it's like, you're literally a doctor. You are a
Doc.
surgeon who looks at vaginas all day, and you are like over here like
Yeah,
vagina.
that's totally me in anatomy class. Okay, I'm guilty. I'm guilty of it. Like
No, but like these are full-blown doctors like that have seen tons and tons of vaginas and like
they're
literally
still
operate on it, and they're still like, I'm not gonna say that. I'm just like, why are you so shy about it? I thought that
yeah.
was really weird in that video.
Yeah, it's maybe it's because of YouTube, like YouTube's algorithm of what they can and cannot talk about. And some of those, like you call them buzzwords, right? Some of those buzzwords could get them flagged. And obviously, since they monetize their videos from it, that's probably the reason why. I'm not defending them or anything like that, but that could probably be a reason why.
No, some of the doctors like flat out said it, like they didn't care. But there
Oh,
were some that
shoot,
were just like,
really?
yeah. There were
Okay.
some that were like giggly about it, like they were just like, I don't want to say it. Do I have to say it?
Uh,
I was like, all right, well, if that's how you feel about that.
yeah, it's definitely, especially when I visited Planned Parenthood for like my personal needs, definitely they're very straightforward. And like I know that when I sat there in the bed, right, when they take a temperature, I know that my ears turned red at like when they said it out loud. I was like, God, I'm a pre-med to be. But here I am, my ears burning red of embarrassment at the thought of my doctor saying like quite plainly, we'll say like her name is Dr. Jane, right? Let's say Dr. Jane. Dr. Jane's like, all right, so we're just gonna inspect your vagina and to see if there's anything wrong, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, he in my head, I was like, wow, I'm really that immature. God, get it together, Jan, get it together. But still, like, but that's just like I said, that's just me. I can't still say the words quite that comfortably in comparison to say Jazz here. Good for her though, because she's helping normalizing that talk, like the conversation. Like we could talk about these things. This is a safe space.
Whenever you're ready, everyone's on their own journey.
Everyone is in their own journey, but that was if I'm taking a quick look at our notes, those were some of the things that I felt like I had to struggle with when I was on my period journey. One, it's just who could I talk to about it? Luckily, my mom was, well, short tempered about it, but she talked to me about it. But another thing is how to deal with the smell, because I think that's something that not a lot of people talk about is that, yeah, you're on your period, but then what else do you do about the odor? And I think, at least in my personal opinion, a lot of people take vaginal odor as something far worse than just BO, like bad BO.
Which is like so weird because it's like, why can boys stink? And like, trust me, I've like smelled some boys that stinks. Okay, like, hold on. I had a partner that like went on this like whole like bet with his younger brother of who could not shower the longest.
What?
And
No.
we like, isn't that like crazy that we let like things like this with men slide, but all of a sudden, girls, it's like, oh, she smells, she must be nasty. And it's just like, no, like bodies are bodies, and that's how bodies smell. But if you do have like a concerning odor, please go see a gynecologist or your doctor, please talk to them about it.
Is it,
But
there,
only
it
if
could
it's
be,
like
yeah.
something that's not usual. Yeah, because
Yeah.
vaginas are very sensitive.
Vaginas are very sensitive. Then if you do suspect that you have a more like a more a stronger body odor than is potentially unbearable, it could be something else in your body that could potentially lead to some conditions that you may not know about. That it should be treated. But other than that, yes, consult your doctor or consult your general physician. And if you do need to go all the way to your gynecologist, yes, definitely do that. Which is like when where was my brain going with this?
I don't know.
Sorry, it's like 7 o'clock at night. So, um, yeah, we let some of these things slide, and that's really not. It's really unfair, actually, and I don't think that part will ever really go away. Is that you always had to hide yourself, and that's partly because of the shame, especially as someone who grew up in I say this very loosely, semi-Filipino ex-American culture. I had to struggle with keeping some parts conservative about myself, which is like talking about periods and stuff, and then struggling with the American. I just like, oh no, we could definitely talk about this out loud, freedom of speech. Who cares, you know? But some of those things I struggle with culture. It's we can't talk about some of the more sensitive things about our bodies unless it's to a woman that we could trust. And I didn't trust a lot of women at the time to talk about these issues, like, oh, I'm cramping, or why am I so emotional? Like, why are my hormones going in and out of whack? It's like, why am I crying all of a sudden? And I cry very easily. Like I stated this before, I cry very easily, especially when I'm on my period. Like, give me a dog video, I will cry hysterically. It's like, oh my God, it's so cute. But then I didn't know that it's because just my hormones are out of whack, or they're just experiencing a very intense high, or I feel very intense lows. And I wish someone talked to me about those things, because I know that some some people in high school or in college thought I was very weird or very strange, because they tend to catch me on the days that, or they tend to notice me more on the days when I'm on my period, because I act stranger, or I just are more reclusive, but it's because I'm quite literally hurting on the inside. But those are things that have changed now since more people have been very open about it. But uh it's something that I wish I could see more, that where cultures could show us that menstruation is positive. It's a positive thing to talk about, but not everywhere in the world shows that.
Oh,
Even
for
here,
sure.
even here in America, not every place does it.
Like having there's like a layer of like stigma with American culture and menstruation, and then there's like an extra level usually if you are like a person who identifies as Black, Indigenous, or a person of color.
Hmm.
Usually, like having falling in that in one of those cultures is like an even added layer of like stigma that comes with menstruation. Because when you look at how America really approaches menstruation and stigma, if you look at like 1920s ads from Kotex, a lot of them use words like, oh, dainty and feminine,
Hmm.
and like they'll be like, oh, here's discreet packaging, so it's less embarrassing to buy. So even in like advertising, it's the way that they're talk like companies talk to us about periods. It's like, oh, this is something that you need to hide. This is something that you need to be ashamed of. This is something that you need to be like quiet about. So it already perpetuates that, like, okay, like we can't talk about menstruation, and if we do, we got to do it on the DL, like it is a secret. And then on top of that, you have the like cultural like myth that like, well, and it's not a myth because some menstruators do experience like when you are like going through the hormone changes of your period, you do experience some like emotional changes, and that's normal.
Hmm.
And like they approach that as like, oh, she's PMSing, like ha ha ha, like it's like as if it's a joke, and it's just like, no, we're just
No.
going through like bodily changes. And I think that the weird thing is too is that like men's emotions and men's like irrationality whenever
Comes from
they're like,
spikes of testosterone. Yeah.
yeah, it's just like that's normal, like that's acceptable. But all of a sudden when a girl is like menstruating, it's like, oh, hold on, like she's on her period, or like, oh, is she mad she's on her period? Is she craving chocolate? She must be on her period. Like, no, like we could do all of those things. We could want those things without having to be on our period, and we could also just be on our period and not experience those things. Like I
Mm-hmm.
get really frustrated because a lot of the times those things are tied. And when I tell you, when people ask me, like, oh, are you bitchy because you're on your period? Oh, sorry, I'm not supposed to curse. Sorry. They're like, oh, are you like extra mean because you're on your period? I'm like, no, I'm extra mean because you're like pissing me off for a good reason. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
like, I have every right to be mean. It has nothing to do with this biological process that I go through every month because I know it's coming. I know how to handle my emotions. I'm an adult. You know what I mean? And sometimes it'll slip out. I get it. But like
Mm-hmm.
generally, it's just like people really treat periods as if it's like either something to laugh at or something to hide. And I find that extremely frustrating. Like it's just so like I feel like it's something that we're kind of slowly moving away from, and like we're I feel like the culture is shifting like a little bit, but I still feel like a lot of it is like that. It's still like periods are humiliating, periods are something that you don't talk about kind of thing.
When you talk about those things, like things that need to be hide, gosh, English. I'm sorry. I swear I'm actually collegiate educated. I swear, I really do. Um, when you talk about advertising, right, and that it's slowly coming around, uh, I'm not going to talk about this in the third world country perspective because we could literally spend an episode on just that. But we're
Oh
gonna
yeah.
go take a look on at the international level. We'll specifically talk about Asia. I believe it was in last time I researched, it was either in China or Japan, one or the other, that they were trying to bring period talk into modern light. Like let we could be open about it and talk about it. But they had mixed messaging. That was the issue. They didn't know how to bring it to the table without making it feel awkward. So in this case, it's just more of like secondhand embarrassment, and then it's like it made people want to retreat more into themselves. So what they did was, like I said, it's either Japan or China. I can't remember on the top of my head. It's somewhere in my notes, I swear. But employees who were menstruating had to have a special name tag that had like I think a red dot that would say, "Oh, I'm on." That would signify that they're on their period that day.
That's embarrassing.
Hold on. Here's the thing. So the way that the company was trying to go about it was that if you had that thought, that means you're on menstruation. So that means people would know. But then also it means that if you need to take a break, right, for whatever reason, there is a logical reason other than just skipping off work, right? Like chill in the bathroom, look at your phone. So it says like, oh no, if she's gonna go, she's probably going to have to change. That was like their discreet way of saying like, we acknowledge that you're on your period. We're not gonna make anything about it. It's just we just kind of need to know sometimes in case you do need to take an extended bathroom break for whatever reason. But also at the same time, customers could see that also. It's supposed to make it feel normal. So if other menstruators came into the store and see another employee that had their red dot on their name tag, they're like, oh, that is someone that you could talk to in case you do need to buy some products for yourself. But at the same time, again, mixed messaging. When you would buy pads, tampons in this country, they would put it in a black bag instead of in a white bag where you put everything else. So they're still awkwardly trying to find their way of how to like if honestly just stuff it all in one bag. Like come on. It's just you don't need to hide it, you don't need to put it in its own bag. It's just like, if it's gonna go next to my bacon, it's gonna go next to my bacon. Like that it's all wrapped up anyways. It's not gonna leak through. In you go. That's it. But like I
Yeah.
said, it's that awkward mixed messaging. But that's just for that country. But also I want to talk about this person. So we have a Grace Meng here in New York here in America, but we also have someone like that in
They're
China.
pretty.
Yeah, we have a person like that in China. Her name is Liang Yu. That is her Weibo account name. So she tried to advertise that frontline workers need more products, right? Especially in provinces like I believe it was Wuhan.
Like menstrual products or like
Menstrual
products in
products.
general? Okay.
Menstrual products on top of like extra food, PPE, all
Okay.
those supplies. She advertised for that because frontline workers would complain that they don't have enough of anything, and that includes menstrual products. So she tried to advertise for those things, but because social media is controlled by the government, obviously, mixed messaging again has happened. So she tried to make it more palatable for the citizens out there. So instead of using dainty, like I said, here's the word dainty curved text that you would typically see in advertisements related to women. Like if you see Chinese characters, you can make your fonts cutesy, right? So instead of using cutesy font that they would normally put for any other products towards women, she decides to make it flat and straight, like how they would do for, like, say, men's deodorant. And there's a Chinese character, I believe, for I forgot what the word was. I believe it was sword, but there's a little at like a little slash. Instead of putting a heart, which was quite typically used again uh for more feminine text, she just puts a pad that looks like a cross instead.
Oh, this is edgy. Okay.
It's very edgy, and they use blue instead of pink. So there's
Okay.
like she really tried to force, it's like, hey, this is something that is should be normal. We should talk about. But then when she brought it up to be advertised, it just died out like so quick. But luckily, it did come to attention, but it's not enough attention. Like this is in a rural area. This is a rural setting, and that is just something that needs to talk about. Like there are countries, even first world countries or second world countries, that are trying to bring it to the table. It's just there are multiple levels of difficulty when it comes to like distributing the access. So that's like something that as Americans we should also think about. Like we could try, and we will do what's necessary to get these products out there, but there's just a lot of hoops to jump over, and it's incredibly frustrating.
Yeah. I think like the biggest hoop that at least us as a first world country, like America is facing is that we really need to address the topic of period education because I feel
Mhm.
like, knowledge is a lot of power. When you know something, it's not as scary. And I think we could probably talk about the history just like pretty briefly,
Mhm.
because a lot of this has to do with being scared of what menstruation is.
Mhm.
But I feel like our public education on like things about your body, like what you get as like sex education is just so like it's just so lackluster and so incomplete, and
Yep.
like that we think biological processes as like weird or scary because we just don't know. And I think it was like crazy. I was reading something as well. Let me just see if I can find the article. So if you guys want to like look it up, you can look it up. Give me a second. It's on Hello Clue. It's called "What Advertising Teaches Us." Oh no, that's not it. I'm so sorry. Yeah, if I can find it. Oh, there you
No,
go.
it's okay.
It's called "The Menstrual Mark Menstruation as Social Stigma." It's by Ingrid Johnston Robledo and Joanne C. Chrysler. If I butchered any of those names, I am so sorry.
Oh yeah, there
Um,
I see it. Yes.
but it's pretty much that a lot of even like menstruation products themselves never talked about like the science behind a period. Like very few mentioned like what estrogen and progesterone was,
Mhm.
what ovulation was,
Mhm.
what menstruation is. And it's just like if you can't even mention those things on a product that's meant to address those things, it's just like how do you expect anyone else to be to know one what this is and like what's going on,
Mhm.
and like two, how do you expect for people who don't even experience it to also understand this and what's going on? So I really think that there's such a disconnect, and there I feel like it would be a good starting ground to really tackle period stigma, to start educating younger folk and folks who are just starting, like around that age of menstruation, to like know what it is, and know that really just kind of drill into your head that this is like a normal thing. This is a normal process. It's the same thing when you go through puberty, so do girls, or so do menstruators.
I know I talked about this in an episode with Nicole and Elise. Where were you from originally? Like
Uh,
state-wise?
State wise, I was born in Japan, but I always grew up in California. But let me tell you this, I don't remember getting sex education. I don't know if it's because I was just in JRTC and we just never did it or what, but like
Okay.
I never had, I think I had it once, or like I had it in like the seventh grade, but we had a substitute teacher, so we didn't really.
Okay. Because I wanted to ask like if you had AGE or that beginning puberty class where we'll say this girls at the time, girls go in one room, boys go to one room.
Was that in the fifth grade?
Fifth or fourth grade here in
Yeah,
America.
I
Did
did
you have
not
that?
do that. I did. Well, okay. So we had it, but I didn't do it because they lost my permission slip. So I couldn't even do it. Okay. But it happened. But I heard it was very much like, oh, this is like a vagina, I think. Like it was very like rudimentary. Like
It's
it
very
was very,
rudimentary.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because when I think about it now again, like you said, there's that lack of disconnect, right? It's like, well, if boys go through this, girls go through this too. And then here's the idea of that secrecy. I remember in that
Mhm.
class that quite literally the female teachers, well, I can say female. Well, yeah, female teachers at the time. Female
Mhm.
teachers at the time were telling me, don't tell the boys what you learned today. That secrecy, like you need to hide it. And then quite
Yeah.
literally, like 15 minutes later, when you go to recess, they're like penises, 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 penises. I'm just like, and then obviously I don't know if I heard it from a friend at the time. It's just like, did I think I was actually in the same room when some of the other girls were asking some of the guys that we were close to, like, did they tell you to not talk about these things? It's like, oh yeah, but penises. That's quite literally their response. So just like, why do we have to hide it too? It's like if it's expected to a degree, right, that young boys and young girls are going to go through puberty together, shouldn't we have those classes together? Yes, it will be rudimentary, but I maybe this is just my big brain thought for the future, right? Like, wouldn't it just be better to have it together? And then as it gets a little bit more specific to those specific needs that only women need to know or men need to know, then you could start to separate. Obviously, at the high school level, where it's a little bit more obvious, right?
To be honest, I don't even think you should separate them at the high school level. Because if you think about it, what if these men have daughters? What if these
Okay,
women
true, true, true.
have like sons? Or what if they are entering in the medical field and then all of a sudden it's like, well, you got to learn both anyway. I think it's just beneficial for everyone to just
Did you have
know
home ec?
as much as possible. I did not, girl. Our school was
Okay,
not
because
bullying like that.
I know that in cartoons and other TV shows that they had the idea of like home ec, like take caring a baby, right?
Oh yeah.
Or like knowing how to cook, knowing how to clean, or do some of those like really more adult things or transient stages of life that you should know. Um, that could probably have been bridged to with my health class, my health and sociology class, which was weird only because I feel like there needs to be in my school, I felt personally at the time that the teacher who was teaching these health classes was not fit for the job because there was a lot of questions that especially the women in my class, they had a lot of questions that he couldn't answer. He couldn't answer them because obviously one is directed to women. And he did tell us one was like, well, I can't discuss that with you. You might need to talk to the school nurse. And the school nurse was female. So it's just like, go talk to the nurse. It's like, you're our health teacher. You
Mm-hmm.
need to be able to tell us this too. And it's like, well, if it's about the body, go to your anatomy teacher instead. And we had an anatomy teacher. And I'm just like, bro,
See, this is like
what
the
the
crazy
heck?
thing. I think this is where you see like the huge disconnect. And this is what I mean with education. Like, this is where you see the huge disconnect between better funded schools and schools in low socioeconomic areas. Because I went to a high school that isn't really in a nice area. And I would say it's on like the lower end in terms of like testing and scoring and funding they receive, especially compared to the other schools in the district. Um, and we didn't even have any of that. We didn't have anatomy. We didn't have a health class. We had like your standard like biology, chem, physics. And physics was kind of like a fight to get to. We got it when I was like a junior or a senior.
Hmm.
Um, so a lot of these classes weren't even available to us as a high school. So we didn't even have the opportunity to learn about those things. And it's crazy because it's like these are things that you should be learning about because everybody has a body. Doesn't mean matter if you're poor, if you're rich, whatever. Like everyone should be knowing about their bodies, and now they don't, particular, because they're in a lower socioeconomic area, or like in your case, you have people that aren't fit to be teaching, or that aren't teaching curriculum that is comprehensive, that
Mm-hmm.
will, like, give rounded knowledge about bodies and these bodies. And I think it's just like I think that's also something that helps perpetuate, period stigma, is that
You don't know enough.
literally no one is getting the education that they should be about menstruation. And I didn't learn anything about menstruation, or like reproductive organs, or anything that has to do with that nature, until I was in
College?
university. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like 20
Yeah.
something, and that's when I finally learned, like, oh, this is this hormone, this does this does this when
Mm-hmm.
your period happens, this does this. And I was just like, it took me I this happens to me every month, and it took me what, 20 years to figure out what this is. Like, that's insane.
I mean, all I knew when I was in high school, when they were teaching this loosely, what was this? Honors anatomy. I love my teacher to that. She's great. She answers all my questions because she was the one I bugged about for all these things. She she did give the least comprehensive version. Like you need to know where egg one goes all the way to, uterus and then boop down below, right? It's very glossed over, but she gave me what I needed. And she did say, you will learn about this fully to what each hormone means at the college level. And I trusted her on that. And thankfully I did learn all those things. But the fact that I had to take health notes, anatomy notes, and even what I learned from the nurses in their little pamphlets that they have out there and put them side by side, it's not, it doesn't meld well together. And it drives me insane because it's like now I'm asking my anatomy teacher all these health questions when I should be learning it from my health teacher. It's like, oh, what about this X, like, what's it? What happens if you get pregnant? And a health teacher's like, oh, you'll learn that in anatomy. And the anatomy's like, you'll learn that in health class. It's like, I need to
It's
be,
like you're playing cat and mouse. Like, you're just trying to, like, play cartographer. You're trying to piece things together.
it's something that I would like to think about, especially at the high school level when it's expected that a lot of your subjects need to intersect, you know, more aggressively, quite literally.
Yeah,
It's
for sure.
just you need to close the loops because I there's just too many gaps. And like I said, especially when it comes to health or economics or those things that are not outside like mathematics, chemistry, biology, those are other things that have a pretty big impact in our lives, especially at the college level and especially outside in real life. And it's annoying. It's
Yeah,
really annoying.
for
And
sure.
then like you said, because of the lack of information, like I see that there are some is this tweets? Is this tweets?
Yeah, they were tweets. Do you want to read them out?
There's some tweets, yeah. There's some tweets of like why bridging more education between multiple subjects of biology, anatomy, sex ed, or your health class is very, very, very important. So, Jazz, you can read some of yours and I'll read some of mine.
Sure. And I also just want to quickly add that I think it's incredibly, I know that your teacher mentioned that, oh, this is something that you'll find more in college. But not everyone wants to go to college, and that's fine. Like, not everyone has to go to college, but everyone is going to be in high school. Everyone does have to go through middle school. Everyone does have to go through elementary school. So why aren't we teaching it where people are going to actually be? Like,
Especially if
I
it's
just want to,
mandated. Public schools
yeah,
mandated unless you're homeschooled. Unless you're homeschooled.
I'm just gonna, like, throw that in there, that I think
Yeah.
we should just be teaching it because for sure you're gonna have some middle school, high schoolers, and elementary school students. So you don't know if you're gonna have a college student.
Yeah.
Anyways, some of these tweets that have tweeted out about other people's experience with period stigma, um, kind of, some of them are funny, some of them are kind of sad, but this one's kind of funny. Yvonne C. Harrison tweeted out, I was asked, and this is in 2018, by the way, so this is not that long ago. I was asked recently if I couldn't just hold it in about period blood. Lack of understanding from men is frightening. What do you
Yeah.
think this is, a poop? Like, I don't like
You can't hold it in. It doesn't work that way. How many times do we have to tell people or tell uneducated individuals that that's not how it works? It's not how it works. Anyways, sorry, continue.
and it's like it's so weird because it's like people who are like, smart, educated people, like people who work in corporate offices, they're the people who are saying these things too. And it's just like, how? Where?
Uh,
I got another one. Oh, this one doesn't have a name. I'm so sorry. If someone wants to credit this eventually in the chat, that'd be great. But I don't have a name for this one. But this person tweeted out, I blacked out in school once due to the pain. Basically had to be carried to the office. Was lying on a couch in the reception, tossing and turning as the pain was so bad. And one of my male teachers walked by, laughed, and rolled his eyes.
that teacher's a straight up prick. I'm
Did
sorry.
that happen to you? Because that happened not to me, but it happened to someone that I knew, and my like male teacher said something about it.
My female teacher, actually, she was,
Oh, okay.
I had a, for those who actually know me in my high school, um, there was, I had a specific gripe with this one teacher about it. Uh, but basically it was, I was, my mom really doesn't like me being on medication when it comes to being in pain. So like take like your standard pain relievers, right? But it was just so bad that day that I was like doubled over. Like it felt like quite literally the bottom wall of your vagina is like falling out. That's what it feels like, right? Um I don't know if there is actually a male equivalent, but just quote me on that, right? So there's that feeling of your gut just sinking to your knees. And I was doubled over and I was supposed to run the pacer that day. And it's like on I hate the pacer.
What's a pacer?
Pacer, it's a cardiovascular exercise where you have to run from I don't know how many meters it was, but from point A to point B back and forth on a timer. You're supposed to get from one end to the other end before time runs out.
Okay.
And then it gets progressively faster, so it's supposed to help build it up.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay. I see. I see.
Yeah, so it's either you run the pacer or you run the mile, right? The mile is boring. Pacer was easier. But at the time I was just in way too much pain and quite I she my PE teacher is a female and she is a volleyball coach. So I was just like, can I just not do this right now? I really can. And she's like, is there a reason why? And I'm just like, are you feverish? It's like I'm hoping that you can read my mind. Like I'm dying. I felt like I was dying. I'm hurting so badly. You hear me holding my stomach. Is that not already a social indicator that I'm on my period? And it's just like I really can't run. Like if I run, I will fall to my knees and I will cry. And she's like, fine, go to the nurse. And it's just like, if you come back with not a note, you're gonna have to run the mile. And I'm just like, what?
Wait, so she didn't even like
Unsympathetic. That's what it was.
oh wow. And you
Yeah,
didn't tell her either, did you?
I didn't tell her because I thought she would know. It's like I am a person that doesn't make things up. I just really couldn't do it. I really physically couldn't bring myself to run and then just keel over and make a bigger spectacle than it already is, type of thing.
Yeah.
So I did went to the nurse and I lied down on my side and then I felt better. Then I went back to class and it's like, so what was it really? And I'm just like, I didn't want to give her the satisfaction. I was just like, I just feel better. That's it. And then I walked away and went to my next class. But that was something that I was quite annoyed about. It's like, wow, my health or one of my health teachers and one of the volleyball coaches for the girls team, like girls varsity team, was treating another individual this way who could quite literally be in pain. And for someone who's rather truthful in class, like that's kind of dumb, in my opinion. I was incredibly frustrated, and it soured my relationship with her for the rest of the semester. But that was that was that. But if we're gonna go with other tweets of like lack of education, here's some that I got.
Oh, can I pop in really quick? I
Yeah,
want to tell my story. It's kind of like adjacent to that.
yeah.
But
Okay, go ahead.
someone I knew also, she was on her period and she like straight up told, our teacher, she's like, or like I think other girls were like, she's on her period. Like, and she was like also she was like doubled over, and this was in middle school. She was like doubled over. Was having cramps, like she was having like a hard time standing up. And she was just like, oh, you should, just run it off. It's good for you. And I was just like, what? And she like she fully ran the mile and she was like in tears running the mile. And I was like, this was really unnecessary. Like
No,
you
that's
really did not have to do that.
cruel. No.
Yeah, and I was just like, okay, well,
To a
I can't say anything to
degree,
you. I'm 13.
yeah, I mean, to a degree, yes, exercise does help, but that if you're already doubled down, like if you're already doubled over in pain, like you don't do that. Like if you sprain your ankle, you're not supposed to run on it.
Yeah,
You sit down and you ice it, right? If you're if that feeling was equivalent to how it feels like quite literally in your vagina, it hurts, it's clenching so much, or the your bottom wall is like falling out, you don't run. You literally
yeah,
you let the wave of pain die out before you even consider doing anything else. But I know that that is something that could be discussed at like at the educational level, like culture. Like you have to fight through the
yeah,
pain. You don't need to
for
fight
sure.
through the pain for that. If you're in pain, you're in pain. Like deal with it and heal with it before it becomes a progressive problem in the future. But like
Yeah.
that's just my segue for that. But so about the lack of education. This is also about vaginal hygiene. I don't like the word hygiene anymore. The more I say it, the more I don't like it. Products, right? For menstrual products. Uh, this is all anonymous. This was in the Clean and Fresh Understanding Women's Use of Vaginal Hygiene Products in Sex Rules, a Journal of Research 2018. And this is a quote. It's anonymous. It's in my subconscious. It's always like I'm worried I smell down there. And also too, I've just heard so many horror stories from both guys and girls about that girl stink. This person was 18 to 21 years old, white and bisexual. And I'm just like, oh. So it's not just, a guy thing, it's also a girl thing. Or in context of this quote. Another one was I find that when I have less hair, I have less smell, and it tends to fester down there. And I don't really know what to make about that quote, to be honest. Uh, I really don't. It's just to each their own on how you handle your pubic hair. Uh, but from what I've heard from other people, it's that having some pubic hair down there keeps other material from coming inside your vagina,
Hmm.
kind of like nose hair.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's to filter out dust or whatever could be coming in. And you don't want that to be inside your vagina because that's a very sensitive tissue, right? And then last one. This one is from Women's General Bodywork, Health, Hygiene, and Beauty Practices in the Production of Idealized Female Genitalia. Uh, it, I, this was a 31-year-old woman, white European, heterosexual. I wasn't sexually active until my 20s, so I had no prior experience in that area. With the hygiene products, my boyfriend, who's still my partner, had to teach me about douching. That's how illiterate I was. He told me I stunk and I needed to douche. First,
No, don't do that.
and I was like, first
Don't
of
do
all,
that.
first of all, I was like, he's still your partner. He told you you stink and you needed to clean it like that. I was like, what? I feel like I need more context of the relationship to really make an opinion, but I'm just like,
No, I don't.
no.
Throw them away. If someone's making you douche, like to be
Dude,
frank, F off, bro. Like douching is so bad. Like I really don't think people understand how sensitive a vagina is. Like if you eat
explain,
certain like
explain.
foods,
Hmm.
I will explain because this is in my realm of work at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
So vaginas are literally super sensitive. If you eat a specific diet, it could throw off your vagina pH. If you eat too much sugar, sometimes for some people, it could trigger yeast infections. All right. Um, if you're like prone to like BV or yeast infections, and if you treat either one of them, like let's say you have a yeast infection, sometimes after you'll get a like you'll get bacterial vaginosis because all of a sudden,
Uh-oh. Jazz, you cut out. Oh no, Jazz. Jazz? Oh. Small technical difficulties there. All right. Um, until I get word from Jazz coming back to oh, maybe she'll message me on the group chat. Sorry about that, everybody. I think her internet might have crapped out. But also to add on to Jazz, through my line of work in my previous occupation, uh, a lot of the tests, she's really gone. Oh, geez. Uh, a lot of the tests that does come into the office at the time is that it tends to center around women and diagnoses. Like when it comes to bacterial vaginosis, STIs, STDs, pap smears, and all of those things. It could potentially just be about how people have been treating their vagina, right? And it's important to know that it's very sensitive, like as Jazz said before she got cut off. It's important to know that it's very sensitive and you do need to handle it with a good deal amount of care. So that means, yes, you need to be a little bit more mindful of what you eat and what you put in there, but also what you can do with it. Right. So that could be diet, it could be the things that you eat, the things that you drink, how often you exercise, your genetics, and all of those things. But it's just something to think about. And if we think about, since this is fulfilling destiny, if we think about how what we know about our bodies and how those who are experiencing homelessness, menstruators who experience homelessness, we don't know how much they know. We don't know how much they know. So it's our way of trying to educate those out there that these people who we give products to, they may or may not know what they could know about their bodies. And it's important that we need to bridge those educational gaps. There you are.
Hello, I'm back. Sorry, I disconnected, but is it okay if I go back to what I was mentioning? Because
Yeah, basically I just
I
said
got
like, you know how you talked about in your line of work that you had things like bacterial vaginosis. I just bridged it with my lab background of like STIs, pap smears that we may know these things now because of our occupations have told us, our education has told us these things, and our experience have told us these things. But if we think about mentors who are experiencing homelessness, how much do they know about these things?
or
So,
just like a regular menstruator. I bet
or
you
a
they
regular
don't
mentor, yeah.
know either. Yeah.
So it's important that we need to treat especially this sensitive organ with a great deal amount of care. And I was explaining while you were gone to bridge the awkward quiet gap is that you need to be a little bit more careful about what you put in your bodies, like food, drinks, the amount of exercise. It could just be your genetics that could make things a little bit more difficult for you. So like PCOS or ovarian cancer,
Yeah.
cysts,
Endometriosis,
endometriosis. Yeah.
things like that, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. Even like the type of underwear you can wear can literally drastically
Mm-hmm.
change how your vagina is functioning just because like polyester doesn't breathe as well as cotton. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
having like all that moisture, you know,
Especially if
just
we sweat
chilling
down
in
there
there.
more. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially when you sweat, like if you're working out or something, that could lead to like a bacterial infection or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there are just so many things that menstruators just don't know about their vaginas, and it's well, I mean, even non-menstruators that they don't know about like vaginas and like
Yep.
we
The
really need to move from that in order to address this period stigma because the more the more power that um just the more power to these menstruators. It
yeah,
really is normal.
it really is like if we could talk about the like I said, if we spun this around and we took it in another lens on how we think of men, right? Cisgender men and how they feel about their bodies, it's quite open. It could be a little like crass on how quite openly they're able to talk about these things. And it's just kind of
Seriously.
like it's like, oh, just had a like let's say like just had a boner pop in class. It's like, oh really?
Or
You
they'll just be
do?
like, "Oh, my balls itch," and it's just like
It's like, well,
I
it's like yeah, or like they would like scratch themselves out, well, like outwardly in public, right? It's like, all right, I just gotta readjust my balls, right, in their pants, and they just like quite literally do it out in public. They just like shift themselves, and then if women did it, right, children was like, oh, like my bra, they're like trying to awkwardly try to fix their bras or no bras,
yeah.
right, depending on what you like to wear. And then
Or like if you need to fix your underwear, because like I'm one of those girls that sometimes like
it
my
rides
pants
up.
get caught up in there too. You know what I mean? Like it gets caught in there, and like
Yeah, or like I said with
get it out.
like those things that you said about underwear, like how well you could breathe downward. Like you shouldn't wear tight underwear, or you shouldn't wear loose underwear, or you should wear no underwear. Like nobody really talks about those things unless I quietly look Twitter, YouTube, or horror stories from like
And
workplace
even then,
environments.
yeah, even then, it's kind of scary because you don't know what's going to be different for you because everyone is literally, there's like, kind of standard lines, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But there is so much room for like individualization in terms of like what you need to pay attention in terms of your body that
Hmm.
sometimes you get misinformation, like on the media, like on, on TikTok, on Twitter. It'll be like, cool, that worked for you to put like honey on your cooch, but like, what if that doesn't work for
Yeah.
me? You know what I mean? Like, that might not be the best situation.
Also,
And it's,
also side note, do not put food products there. Do not.
yeah,
It's
like,
you're asking for trouble. You know what
and
I
if
mean?
you do, at least talk to your, like, talk to your doctor first. If you're gonna, before you even do anything to like
Consult your doctor.
yeah, if you are doing anything in terms of like putting stuff that normally doesn't go in places, consult your doctor first and like have them give their opinion. Don't just read something on the internet. And I know that's hard, because healthcare is expensive and things like that, but um, if there are like discount, but if there are services available to you, like a Planned Parenthood or like health centers that are cheaper, please go to those options. Versus having to just go on the internet. And if you are maybe going on the internet, maybe like use one of those apps that like have a certified person
Hmm.
before you even like
Or
start.
check out like I know this is like a really weird segue, but like check the website like .org, .gov, like .edu. Those are probably a lot more credible than some of the other sites out there when it comes to like finding out more information. Like if it's too awkward to go asking your parents, or you're not old enough to go talk to a doctor or those things, internet can be great. Just be mindful of what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Uh,
Even then your parents can give you like bad advice.
Even yeah, that's why
So,
it's just like if
mhm.
all else fails, internet can be a good thing because it worked out for you. You got YouTube to help you put a tampon.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I got really lucky that I didn't learn something that was like that would harm like my health, and it was like something that, it worked out for me, but like other videos could just be like say something that maybe isn't true or isn't 100% true or like is only understood within a specific context. So I would definitely say if you were going to do something, just, yeah, know what you're getting, try and know what you're getting into and do as much research as you can before you go about it. And if you can, the best thing in my opinion, the best thing to do is go see a professional and get their opinion on it. But, you do what you can.
But yes, don't douche. That's moral
For
story.
sure, for
Don't do
sure,
it.
don't
For
douche. Do
sure.
not do
It will
that.
clean. It's like quick biology lesson. It will literally clean itself. It will clean
Yeah.
itself. If you feel a stickiness or wetness down there, it is probably some vaginal discharge, which is basically cleaning it out. If there
And it's
is
normal.
a funny smell that is not urine or feces or what have you, right? If it's not that, then yes, go see your doctor because that is usually a telltale sign that something is a little bit off and that needs to be rectified. And that could be as simple as a yeast infection. You need some medication for that, or it could be something a little bit more serious, right? And then that requires more conversation, but that's a topic for another time. But yeah, so that's basically is it. Let me take a look. Let me take a look. Anything else you wanted to add? Since we are around coming around 9. I think we start at 7:45.
Yeah, we did. We started around that time.
Anything else you wanted to add?
I do just want to like quickly pop in and say if anyone is curious about the history of period stigma, I think that could be like a whole episode on its own
You
because
want to do another one?
it's very, I mean, this is up to you. So if the listeners, if y'all are interested, comment down below or I don't know, comment somewhere.
Comment
and say
somewhere.
that you want this, yeah, comment somewhere, and say that you want this episode because we literally have so much information on it. And
It takes
I
some
think it's
digging.
interesting. Yeah. And I feel like the history of period stigma gives a lot of context in terms of how it is used to almost as um, a levy against women and using it to kind of enforce the patriarchy and how it that sounds very pretentious, but it's kind of true. It shows the origins of how it there was so much stigma and um, negative feelings towards a biologically WMXN process. And I'm just going to like broadly say women as a term because this can also include um,
Mm-hmm.
transgender men. This could include non-binary.
Mm-hmm.
This could include anyone who just has a uterus, pretty much. So if you fall under that category of if you have a uterus, no matter who you are, the history really kind of, depending on the lens that you look at it, can really show why the stigma is kind of perpetuated the way that it was throughout history. But that is another topic, I think, for another day, just because it is so long.
You know what? Now that I think about it, because I see these notes, and oh, this could literally be quite a long episode about it.
Mhm.
Uh, I want you to come back next week around this time. Is that available?
Sure.
We get to literally talk about the a better history of this. Like this is just more of like today's episode is about our personal experiences and how we feel about it and how
Mhm.
some countries out there try to make themselves more open about talking about periods. And it's coming slowly. It's coming around. But we know that sometimes time is not on our side and it shouldn't be dragged out for this long, right? And
For sure.
uh this could be bridge for next week on why that why that is, why this is it, and it's gonna bridge things of linguistics and it's gonna bridge parts of religion, right? And it's gonna bridge some things about society that we wish that we could change. Hopefully now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But since we don't want to make this episode too long, stay tuned.
Yeah. It'll definitely, I think, bridge ideas about gender equity and gender roles in
Oh yeah.
current society. And I
Mm-hmm.
also do just want to really pop in and say is there are, yeah, there are a lot of companies and a lot of movements now that are really trying to move forward and normalizing periods and um, trying to make it an everyday conversation. And I really do want to commend those efforts, and especially the efforts of like leaders like Grace Meng, who are advocating for menstrual products as a standard in all bathrooms. And this is another conversation kind of for another time. But I do also just want to highlight that when we do talk about menstruation and menstruation stigma, that we really aren't just talking about like cisgendered women,
Mm-hmm.
because it also puts a huge, like the stigma that comes with menstruation also puts a huge strain on people who don't identify as cisgendered women, and often it could put them in a lot of trouble because there's a lot of intersectionality that overlaps with how society views gender norms and
Mm-hmm.
identity. So, like, if let's say if you were a trans man and you haven't done surgery or you don't want to do the surgery, and that's fine, it's none of our business. And you are like menstruating, because there is this huge period stigma that contributes to the perception of all of the things that cisgender women have to experience. On top of that, it puts like those individuals in danger because men link period stigma and menstruation to cisgendered women.
Mm-hmm.
So when this doesn't, like, I feel like when this doesn't align, it's kind of like a fuel to the fire in terms of their
Sorry, you're saying gender dysphoria then.
yeah, not sort of, but like it kind of like for cisgendered men, it kind of is like fuel for them to, what is it called, be like transphobic.
Ah,
If that
okay,
makes
okay.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Now I
because
get it. I see where you're getting there. I see where you're getting
yeah, yeah, it was kind of like hard to explain. But yeah, I do definitely want to say that period stigma is not only something that we should be breaking through for cisgender women, but it's something for all
there.
menstruators that will benefit. And if anything, it will benefit them more because I feel like they are groups that are more at like risk in terms of like their safety and in terms of like having to do with the conversation of menstruation. Again, another topic for another day, but I do just want to quickly pop in and say that.
Oh, of course. And then my last thing is that if you are like how we talked about some of these tweets or some of these quotes that some people say, like if you have a partner in your life who is not as I can say educated about the anatomy of the of the human body, right? Vaginas in general. Uh, take the extra time to open up those conversations of like why sometimes you won't do a certain thing because it's not sexy or it's not clean or those things because everybody's different and there's nothing to be shy about. And if you're going to make lasting relationships with people who you're going to be, I guess, like a little bit more intimate with, you do need to have these conversations. But like I said, topic for another day. Valentine's Day, we could talk about that, or Galentine's Day. So that is something to think about. So we call it, we can quite cover a lot. So actually, I wanted to ask that, re-ask this question again. Since now that we're adults, right? We're turning
Mhm.
25 this year.
Quarter life
Quarter,
crisis.
quarter life crisis. But that aside, we are turning 25.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, do you feel ashamed now? Or do you still feel lingering shame about being on your period and all the things around it?
I definitely do feel like I have shame in terms of like my own vagina. Oh, I mean, like it's less now, but a little bit, and I definitely do feel a lot. I still do feel experience like shame with like sex, but I think that's like a little different. But in
Hmm.
terms of like my period and generally about my vagina, I'm like,
You're right.
yeah, I'm like, and what? That's a vagina. That's a uterus. Yep, it drops eggs. I bleed every month. I'm like, oh, can you like, did you check if I spotted? I was like, I think if anything, I just think it's really annoying. And I'm like lucky to be in that position for it to be just for it to be inconvenient and not like a really stressful
Time.
like yeah, like it's not stressful for me because I don't really cramp and I also have access to period products and I'm really thankful for that. So I know that I'm really lucky to just think that it's annoying.
Hmm.
But generally I'm just like
You're chilling.
if anything, yeah, if anything I'm talking products. Like I love talking about sustainable period products, okay? So
No,
someone
no.
sponsor Salt Cup, I'm looking at you.
We're not sponsored by anything quite yet. I'm working on it. I'm working on it, I swear. As for me, when it comes to my personal shame about it is I definitely feel ashamed for some of the things that I've done when I was younger towards my other menstruators,
For
definitely
sure.
giggled at them like it kind of like those life experiences like put your hand up, put one down if you bled through your pants in the middle of class or stuff like that. It's like definitely definitely did some things I was very not proud of to my fellow menstruators. It's just like,
Oh
I'm so
yeah.
sorry that I've said those things or I made fun of you for these things. Like I said, take the shirt off my
Hmm.
back if you need me to cover you. Like I got you. Uh, but it's definitely a lot less now, thankfully, because of Fulfilling Destiny. And then we have staff members and interns who are very open about sharing their opinions on how they feel about themselves and about their human lives. Because I'm still learning, still learning. Definitely coming around of trying to get over not skating around the word vagina so much. Trying to, still doing some casual conversations with my partners. Like this is really awkward to talk about, but just like be like that. Uh, but as now it's more of like it's a shame. The shame that I feel now is like it's a shame I just didn't know it sooner. That's all.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
I don't hate myself for it anymore. I could forgive the younger version of myself who is just young, dumb, and experienced. But thankfully now it's just I wish I learned it sooner so I could avoid these very awkward stumbles in my life now. But We're coming around. This is a year of growth. This is 2021. We're starting the year off right. We're learning. And as the rest of this year goes, we're hoping to bring back more education to everybody here and then also talk about a lot more intersectionality when it comes to the ideas of health, especially women next health, since like Jazz said, it's a big umbrella term. There's a lot that we could discuss, but we'll take it one episode at a time, right? Succinct ending. We made it. We made
And
it.
that's on period.
It's just all on periods. Wait till you hear more, right? So from Jazz and I to all of our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in to a gosh, my brain just totally farted on me. I'm so sorry. Let's try that again. Woo! All right. So from Jazz and I, thank you everybody who has listened in to this episode of the Fulfilling Destiny podcast. Since it's evening for us, we say good night to you. Good morning to everybody else who has a different time zone. And then we will see you next week. Badum.